Welcome to the class, children. Today I am your teacher, Mr. York, and we will be going through the science of property investing. Warren Buffett famously said that number one rule of investing is don't lose money, and rule number two is don't forget rule number one. Now the thing is, what we need to do before we even dig into the numbers is understand that you will never beat a moving market, all right? So a lot of people talk about the economy, what's going on, and instead of focusing on the economy, focus on your economy. And with property, we need to dig into the numbers of the isolated property investment that we want to look into. So let's jump into phase one, which is the quick checks of the property. So before we can even start analyzing the numbers, we need to know the market value of the property and the property knowledge. So what I mean by this is we can't analyze numbers until we understand what we're comparing against. So first of all, how do we actually value the property? Well, we have to start with the details of the property. So how many bedrooms is it? Is it freehold or leasehold? So if it's a flat, probably leasehold. If it's a house, probably freehold. My preference is freehold property. So then we need to know what's the size of the property. You could check the EPC, the Energy Performance Certificate for that, so you can get the square footage of the property, so we're getting like for like. And of course, the property type. You would not believe the amount of times somebody's gone, hey, I've got this 3-bed mid-terrace property and I think it's worth 150 grand. And I go, great, send it over. They send over comparables of a 3-bed detached farmhouse. It's like, nah, it doesn't work like that. So you need to get like-for-like property. So how big is it? Look on the EPC. How many bedrooms? What type of property is it? Is it a 3-bed, a 2-bed, a detached, a semi-detached, a terrace property, or a flat, and anything in between? But also, what is the value? And we're going to look at the comparable market. And really, we're only focusing on sold subject to contract on Rightmove and sold house prices. So you go on Rightmove, sold house prices, and look really within half a mile in the last year. So now that we know the quick checks, we need to actually analyze the property. Now, way back when I started in property, I was one of those idiots that would be writing it all down with a calculator, trying to work it out. Then I upgraded to a spreadsheet, and now it's just best to use software that's purpose built for this. And one of my favorites for this, and I'll mention them a load on the channel, is Landlord. Not only are they a video sponsor, but I actually use them a lot. And this isn't just for analyzing deals. I use them for purchasing properties, refinancing properties, and bridging. So it's absolutely incredible. And best of all, it's free for almost all of it. So if you want free access to that, by the way, there's a link in the description. Click on it. Make sure you just pause this video now, set up an account so you can go through this with me right now. So let's jump in to the dashboard. So we're going to go over here. We're looking at invest on the left-hand side. I'm going to go down, but as you can see, there's quite a lot of things here. I'm not going to talk through all of them, but you can manage your portfolio, manage your tenants, your payment schedules. You can go on finance, where you get your bridging, your mortgage, your refinances. You can actually buy and sell your properties through here as well. And then you can create watch lists. But what I want to do is go down to the rental analyzer. And we're going to go through a property that I actually own. It's number 20 Balfour Road, and then ideally what we're going to do is see what numbers come into play. We end up purchasing this property at 72,500. We got a decent discount on this property. The property value though is about £90,000. So let me just put that in there. And you can start seeing the figures populating at the top. Notice, by the way, information that I didn't put in, but it already extrapolates, is the property information. So it's a mid-terrace house. It's an EPCD. It's 71 square meters. And I know the average yield in the area is 7.1%. All right. So that automatically is extrapolated. And just so you know, they are using property data for that. So they pay for like the big subscription for property data, extrapolate that, so we automatically have that info for free. So the rent in this area is a fairly low one. We're talking about 5,000, I wish, £500, and then we had closing costs of about 700 on this. So it's pretty low amounts of money. Now, what I like doing then is looking at what the capital growth is for this types of property. So the reason I like overriding this, by the way, is there's a limit to what technology can do. For example, in an area, and you'll know this from your area, a 2-bed house or 2-bed terrace, let's say, on this street is a very different value to the one over the road, and the capital growth is very different. So the long-term capital growth in any area, or not any area, but most areas of the UK is 7.9%, which is crazy, but let's put 5%, so we're being really conservative. Let's sort of not even look at inflation for now and not look at any appreciation in rent, okay? Just to really simplify this. So we'll put 95% occupancy, which is the average in the area, and then we've got holding periods. So the other things I like doing with this is just scroll down a little bit, make sure that we're getting a really clear loan to value, 75% typically. We've got all of this info down there that we've got. And let's put the mortgage rate where it was about 4%. At the time of this video, it might be a bit different. But we'll go down there. Mortgage fees, 1%. Add the fee to the loan. And then we've got operating, managing, that's all fine there. So what you've got as we go to the long-term assumptions here, and I say this all the time to people, is now the right time to buy property? It's like, well, you don't wait to buy property, you buy property and wait. You need to understand that property is a long-term gain. If you're looking at a buy-to-let investment and how it's just performing in 1 year, that's not going to do you any good. You need to look at longer term. So if we look at a 10-year period, that's pretty good. What you can also do, by the way, I won't go through it right now, but you see this button here that says what if scenarios. What you can do is go through it and go, right, I'm going to do worst case, best case, standard. Okay, and you can add your own in there. So let's say worst case, best case, standard. So we'll count this one as a standard situation, but when you're doing your financial models, and you do need to treat it like that, you want to look, what if best case? What if we do get the 7.9? What if it's only 2% capital growth? All of those sort of things. So then what we do is we look up here, and this, I love Landlord's calculators. I think they're amazing. So the first thing is we're going to look at first year metrics. So you've got the net annual cash flow, 2,900. Not exactly setting the world alight, but a solid deal. Gross yield in that area is 7.9%, so we're getting above the average yield in the area. That's mainly due to the type of the property. And you can see the first year ROI is 94.8%. If I went to you or the average investor and I said, hey, I can get you a 94% return on your money, you think I was absolutely full of crap, right? But actually, you can do that in property. The other thing that I'm really interested in is my cash on cash return, which is pretty cool. And then for the long term, we're looking on the right hand side, and this is based off a 10-year period. What I'm really interested in is this IRR. Most people have never heard of IRR. It's the internal rate of return. So it's an estimate of future annual rates of return. And this is what I've simplified to mean the combined returns, which is your rental returns and the capital growth returns. All right, so it's that rental and capital growth returns in there. So as you can see, the long-term ROI over a 10-year period is 448% return. So it's understanding that these numbers are super important. And then on the right-hand side, this is where I get a little bit geeky, is the holding period breakdown. So you can actually see how this is breaking down. So based on this 5% capital growth, by year 10, it's gone from 94,500 in value to £146,000. Equity in the property has gone from 40 grand to £92,000. Net cash flow will stay the same because, again, we've made out that we're getting no rental appreciation, and the NOI, net operating income, stays the same as well for that. But what I really like is this visual breakdown of growth over time. Now, most people never have hold of these figures because I'm gambling you've never even heard of internal rate of return. I'm gathering that you've never thought of the holding period breakdown. And this is the problem with a lot of people's spreadsheets and calculators, is you're not even doing what you need to do in order to understand the numbers. So make sure you're on the link if you haven't done it already. click the link below, download it, it's absolutely free, set up your login, and make sure you're doing this with every single property that you're analysing from today. So look, whilst I would love nothing more than to make this a 2-hour deep dive, getting down and dirty with the numbers with you, I'm not sure you've got 2 hours to spare. So if you want more of this sort of thing, let me know in the comments. But what I want to finish with, guys, is using software like this, it stops you getting emotional. It allows you to just focus on the numbers, and ultimately property is a numbers game. So the final tip is focus on the 10-year version of this property. If you're in doubt, zoom out, look at the bigger picture and get your numbers together. As I said, make sure you click the link below. Let me know what you thought of this video in the comments, and of course, if you're new to property, in particular the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video.